Hello and welcome to another installment of our Women in STEM series. My name is Kaylee Peile and I'm the Director of Development for the Linda Hall Library. Today our guest is Erika Winters-Downey. She's the Director of Sustainable Structures at Lamar Johnson Collaborative. Erika, welcome and thanks for being here.
Thank you so much.
So to start the conversation, I'd love to hear your backstory. How did you land as a Director of Sustainable Structures? What did that trajectory look like for you?
Yeah. I will definitely say growing up, my family, there wasn't a huge technology, engineering, construction background in my family at all. When I went to high school, I had some teachers say, oh, you're great at science and math, you should look at engineering. And I remember thinking, what is engineering? Like, I don't know what that is. So I toured a bunch of different colleges and really was most excited about the program I found at KU, which was architectural engineering, which is similar to civil engineering, but more of a focus just on buildings, not on road work or stormwater, but on vertical construction. So I went to KU. It's a 5-year degree for a bachelor's in architectural engineering. And then I went to work for a design firm in Kansas City, but at the same time was pursuing my master's degree in structural engineering, also from KU. So yeah, that was my trajectory. I studied architectural engineering at KU as well as got my master's in structural engineering there, and have been able to transform that into a pretty wide-ranging career over the years.
That's fabulous.
Yeah.
So what has that experience been like as a woman? I know that a lot of the women that we talk to in this series, some of them are kind of the first in their field, particularly in the Kansas City area. What was that experience like for you?
I do remember being in school, architectural engineering, we had, I want to say, roughly 30% women when I was in school. I don't know what that percentage is now.
Sure.
But I do remember coming out of school and thinking, where are all the other women? It was about 10% of the workforce at the design firms I was at. And that's kind of carried throughout my career at different industries. I will say where I am right now at Lamar Johnson is more of architecture design centric, and there is more parity, more equity there. I think there's more females in the architecture design side of things than maybe the engineering side of things, but I think that the industry is making strides. There are a lot of industry efforts out there to increase both initial intake of women and retention of women over their careers. Yeah.
So what does that look like specifically in Lamar Johnson, if you wouldn't mind kind of sharing some information there? What has that strategy looked like? Why do you think Lamar Johnson is kind of taking strides in that way?
I think they've just been very intentional about who they have recruited, specifically here in Kansas City. We have a really robust, I would say even our leadership group is about 50% women, and even some of the principals that I've spoken with in our office and other offices have noted that this is part of their legacy too. They want to leave the industry more diverse than when they came in. So I think it's intentionality. I think it's mentorship, sponsorship, as well as just fostering those connections across offices. One of the things I've really enjoyed so far is our company has offices in Chicago, St. Louis, Los Angeles, and they've really invited us to come spend time in those other offices and meet the leadership there and really learn not just our Kansas City office, but across the company, how things work.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah.
And it's exciting to see, from the library standpoint, we're more of a convener, kind of a conduit for all of our strategic partners and corporate partners. It's exciting to see entities like Lamar Johnson really kind of take a lead in that.
Yeah.
And even in the last few years that I've been here, I can see there's kind of a groundswell of more women entering these fields and getting excited about the work and championing each other, which is, it's great. I'm glad you guys are kind of taking the lead. So when it comes to, the library, we work on, uplifting, career exploration, different education tools and that sort of thing for younger learning populations. What are some things that you're excited about, either from the Lamar Johnson perspective or just our STEM ecosystem in general? What makes you excited about Kansas City?
Yeah, and Kansas City has such a robust architecture, design, construction industry. It's really sought after nationally. One of the things I've really been able to plug into over my career are just the great amount of industry organizations out there. So right now I'm the president or the board chair of the U.S. Green Building Council, USGBC, and that's really served me well throughout my entire career. So I would say a lot of the industry organizations, not only USGBC, but AIA on the architectural side, Urban Land Institute, so many have young member groups that, you know, are fantastic to get plugged into. You know, the people that I met as a young member in this organization are now board members with me. And it's really served me well just on a professional connection level. But also, you know, even when I take next steps in my career, having those peers to bounce ideas off of and things like that. So I would really encourage young professionals in Kansas City to get involved in the different organizations that are out there.
Yeah, that makes total sense. That makes me excited too. So when it comes to the future of our STEM ecosystem, not just the future of women in STEM, but also the future of women in sustainability and also the future of sustainability. I know that's like kind of a three-pronged question. What does that look like? What do you hope to see? And do you have any premonitions on what we might be looking forward to in the future?
Yeah, I mean, I think the future of women in STEM is women in STEM. So I also think, you know, as more women enter the architecture, design, construction world, and this is my own words, my own thoughts, but you know, I think you might see more human-centric design, more big picture drivers. I've noticed over my career, and again, this would be my observations, but you know, I think men really excel at digging into a technical problem and solving a technical problem and creating a good outcome for a client. What I've seen, you know, the drivers for the women that I've met are really more of the why, like who am I building this elementary school for? Who am I building this hospital for? And so I've seen that dichotomy, and we need both of those at the end of the day. So I think a lot of leaders recognize the diverse perspectives that women bring. So yeah, I also have noticed throughout my career, you know, many women will say, I'm an architect, but not in the traditional sense, or I'm an engineer, but not in the traditional sense. And, you know, I would say, well, what is the traditional sense? You know, I'm a structural engineer. I don't design connections every single day, but I'm involved in my industry, leading discussions on sustainability. So I think that there's so many paths. You don't have to be a full-time designer to be an architect, engineer, builder. So yeah, I would just encourage women to say, you know, there isn't a traditional path through one of these things, and you should make the most of what's given to you.
Yeah, I think what I found in these interviews, and just kind of as we are growing our network here at the library, so many women are saying that you can be flexible and you can be a little bit more strategic, and it isn't this one linear shot that you have to focus on. I think more young people hearing that is really important, so thank you for sharing that. So tell me, Erika, what about your career have you most enjoyed?
I've really enjoyed the ability to just explore a lot of different facets of design and construction. So when I was in school in architectural engineering, I remember professors saying, well, you know, when you get out into the world, there aren't architectural engineers. You need to pick a specialty. It needs to be, you know, HVAC design or electrical or structural or acoustics, you know, what have you. And the architectural engineering degree can be more of a generalist type degree. So in my career, I've worked on the design side, which allowed me to explore, you know, understanding structural loading and load path and those little details about how, you know, how a building's skin attaches back to the structural frame. And then I spent about 10 years working for the steel industry directly, which really exposed me to how does one plug into industry expertise? How do you understand how the building materials that you're working with are made? I've been fortunate enough to tour quite a few steel mills and manufacturing shops, and even have been fortunate enough to be included in developing some new material standards.
Wow.
And then working for the construction side exposed me to, you know, how are contracts written for buildings? Where does the liability lie? And there's a lot of different ways to handle that in construction. And so that was all of that put together, you know, is a good full circle path toward, you know, overall sustainability, which I focus on now, which helps you integrate all those things and kind of understand the different levers to push and pull in order to really help a building become more energy and water and waste efficient.
Yeah. The whole picture, that makes a lot of sense
Yeah.
to me, who's not in that world,
Yeah.
but that does make sense. So alternatively, is there anything in your career or your education that you have experienced that you would like to see change or be different? I'm sure you have some.
Yeah. I mean, I do think that, like we talked about, there are big pushes to retain more women in our field. You know, I've always thought people really want to hire women and want to build up diversity, but sometimes because of, you know, different pushes and pulls on our career and family, it's been harder for those women to advance. So, you know, if I were to change anything, it would just be to really double down on retaining those women who are great. And I think a lot of the industry leaders out there are really focusing on that right now. Yeah.
No, I agree. And as I said earlier, I think that Lamar Johnson is really taking a step in the right direction, and I'm hoping more people will follow suit with that. So I appreciate your candor. Well, thank you so much, Erika. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you so much.